Hi everyone, Christina here. Today I'm going to be taking part in a blog hop for Simon Says Stamp. They are celebrating Die-cember all during the month of December and have released a bunch of new dies. The die I'm using today is Woodland Rectangular Frame. Looks like this, and it's going to be a very simple card. I'm using just a little bit of die cutting and some heat embossing. So I'm starting out with some Midnight Green cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. I'm running this through my Big Shot machine with a memory box metal adapter plate underneath my sandwich, and I'm running it through my die cutting machine twice. I discovered that this die in particular is very intricate and it doesn't really want to cut unless you really give it a good go. So I ended up cutting this a couple times, and this was the variation of my cutting sandwich that worked. So the metal plate on the bottom, the clear plate, the paper, the die, and then the clear plate on top. And that's when it cut just perfectly. So there's the die. It's very intricate. It's so pretty, especially in this dark green color. I'm going to prep my card base now by scoring the cardstock at 4 1/4. This is going to be a landscape card with a top fold. So I'm just scoring that at 4 1/4. And now I've taken that interior piece from the frame and I've just placed it in the center of the card, and I'm tracing the outside with a pencil. This is going to give me a guide for stamping my sentiment on the inside of the frame. The stamp set I'm using today is from Mama Elephant, and it is called Season's Greetings. I'm using the very last stamp that's on the stamp set, the Season's Greetings stamp itself, and I'm going to place that over that frame area just so I can get an idea of where it needs to go before I actually ink up the stamp. To prep the area, I'm going to be using an EK Success powder tool. This adds quite a bit of powder down onto this dark cardstock, but after I've done embossing, I can wipe it away with my fingertips and it shouldn't be a problem. I noticed when I was placing that stamp over top that some of the edges would just kind of go past the sides just a tiny bit. So I took some little sticky notes and masked off those sides so I wouldn't have to deal with any embossing powder sticking outside the frame. Inked up my stamp with Versamark ink, and now I'm stamping that greeting stamp directly onto the card front. I'm lining it up as much as I can and then pressing down and walking my fingertips over the top of that stamp to get a really good impression. I'm using some Rich Pale Gold embossing powder from WOW today. This is my favorite gold embossing powder because it melts to such a smooth texture, and it's a really, really nice gold color. Just cleans up those edges with a dry brush to get any stray embossing powder, and then I heat set that until it was completely melted, and it melts to a really pretty metallic gold finish. Now I'm going to be cleaning up that area with my pencil eraser. I'm just erasing that frame, the pencil marks that I left, and it also cleans up that powder just a little bit and gets off all that extra powder tool that I left behind. As far as the die cut frame goes, I've temporarily adhered that to some scratch cardstock, and then I'm pressing my Versamark ink pad over top. I'm going to be adding the gold embossing powder to the die cut as well, so I'm just using this white scratch paper as a vehicle to get the frame to the embossing powder. So I'm sprinkling on that gold embossing powder, and then I'll just shake off the excess as that gets going. Going to turn it around and add more embossing powder. And as soon as all of the embossing powder is applied, I'm going to keep it on that white backer sheet, and it's going to give me something to hold on to while I do the embossing. So I'm using my heat tool to melt all of the embossing powder, and it actually melts super quickly on that little tiny frame. I used my tweezers to pull that off the white backer sheet. And now I have this really pretty gold frame. I'm going to place that over top just so I can get an idea of what it's going to look like and where I need to place it. And then I'm going to turn it over so I can see the back side of that die cut and use my Tombow Mono Multi Glue to put little tiny dots on all the different areas of the frame. I'm very gently squeezing the bottle. I'm not squeezing the bottle very much at all, and moving quickly and leaving little tiny dabs of glue. I don't want so much glue that it's going to kind of squirt out from behind the die when I apply it. I've added a very thin line of glue around the frame, and then I carefully picked it up and moved it over to my card front and placed it in place. Kind of tapped each area to get that down, and then placed my hands on top to hold it down until all of the glue was dry. The glue does dry pretty quickly, so I didn't have to hold it for too long. So you could leave the card just like this if you wanted to. It's very simple and easy, but I thought it needed just a little bit more gold right around the edges. So I'm going to take my Versamark pad and press the edges of that cardstock into the Versamark pad. I've used this technique quite a few times over the last few weeks, including yesterday's video. So this is nothing new if you are a frequent watcher of my YouTube channel. And it's one of my favorite techniques this holiday season to add a little bit of shine and a shimmer to the edges of my cards. So after I have that Versamark on the edges, I'm taking some more gold embossing powder and applying that to the very edges of the card. I'm going to be sprinkling this on and then tapping off the excess. And if there are any areas that get a little bit of embossing powder on it that I didn't mean for, because I didn't use a powder tool to prep this, I can use a dry brush to clean off those areas, and it cleans up really nicely. After the gold embossing powder was applied, I used my heat tool to melt those edges, and it really finishes off the card and makes it look nice and holiday-esque and a little bit shiny and new. So that is the card. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please make your way over to my blog. There is a prize associated with today's blog hop, and you can hop along and see all the other dies that are released with this special December release from Simon Says Stamp. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Like I mentioned before, this embossing on the edge of cardstock technique is not anything new if you've been watching my videos. On screen are 3 videos where I use that same technique. So if you want to see some holiday cards that also use that same embossing edge technique, go ahead and click on any of those on screen right now. You can visit my blog at KayWarnerDesign.com, and you can visit me on social media at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys tomorrow for a new video.